Orders in progress. Welcome to Sankalpa Kaumudi, continuing with chapter 34, Gauranga and Ripalamba Seva. Okay, Om Vishnu Padhaya. Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamti Namane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasisha Sunyavhari Pachitar Satanine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Gauravakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna. So we're speaking about what's known as bhava seva. I mentioned this comes up in relationship to chesta seva, which is the engagement of our self in the devotional service of the Lord, specifically specific activities of bhakti, but it has to be an accompanying mood specifically that goes, or mood that accompanies our chanting of the holy name. Yeah, and Maharaj has highlighted that mood as, for Vaishnavas, following the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is one of feelings of separation from Krishna. We've been speaking about, we've been reading, discussing about that, and now we're going to look in at the example in that context of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who, as Maharaj says, it would be impossible to cultivate Nam Sankirtan in the mood of Ripalamba without giving due respect to the personification and embodiment of separation. So that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we're continuing that. We're on page 671. I guess there's only me and Robert Chandravali have the textbook. Yeah. Okay, I guess I'll have a read first. Okay, everyone's ready? Hare Krishna. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit down, 671.
Okay.
Yeah, and keep in mind that most of you don't have the book, so I just could keep that in mind, and so try and not read too fast so we can all understand what's being said. Real Vaishnavas understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is both the personification and the teacher of service in separation. He is Vripalamba Vigraha, the very form of love in separation. That same mode of worship is the life force of the Lord's followers. For example, Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, the personification of renunciation, is also revered as Vipalamba Vishambhode, one who is submerged in the mellows of the expansive ocean of separation. Similarly, in the way that people become strong by eating grains, Gaudiya Vaishnavas become spiritually fit by hearing of the Lord's moods of separation and by coming one with them. Love in separation was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. He had no other. Kaviraj Goswami discloses this truth in his biography of the Lord and hints to the devotees that his perfection is to be realized by embracing the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He quotes, Tate Vishwakari Shuni Pavera Vanana Haibe Pavera Gyana Paiva Premadhana. Please hear faithfully this description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic emotions. Thus you will come to know of his ecstatic love, and ultimately you will achieve love of Godhead. Then another verse is actually 4 verses being quoted here. Krishna Mathurai Gela Gopirayita Sahaila Krishna Vicheti Prabhura Sitasa Opachila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt separation from Krishna, his condition exactly corresponded to that of the gopis of Vrindavan after Krishna's departure for Mathura. Uddhava Darshana Yaichi Radha Vilapa Krame Krame Haila Prabhura Se Umada Vilapa. The lamentation of Srimati Radharani when Uddhava visited Vrindavan gradually became the feature of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental madness. Radhikara Bhava Prabhura Shadi Abhiman Se Bhava Apane Ke Haya Radha Gyan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's emotions exactly corresponded to those of Srimati Radharani when she met Uddhava. The Lord always conceived of himself in her position and sometimes thought that he was Srimati Radharani herself. Divyam Mada Aichi Hoya Ki Iha Vishmoya Adi Uruda Bhavi Divyam Mada Palapa Hoya. Haya. Quote, last verse. Such is the state of transcendental madness. Why is it difficult to understand? Question mark. When one is highly elevated in love of Krishna, he becomes transcendently mad and talks like a madman. Unquote. Both Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati emphasized that Lord Chaitanya never thought, I am Krishna. Rather, he always thought, I am Krishna's servant, and generally, I am Radha. The Lord's abhiman or self-conception as Radha was so intense that his black complexion was covered by Srimati Radharani's golden complexion. That external transformation is an indication of just how strong his internal identification was, after all. It is well known that emotions bring about physical transformations. This is also the case with the Lord. Okay? Hare Krishna. Any comments on this? Vipalamba. Yeah, it's a gradual development within a devotee. Yeah. In the beginning stages, it may not be so prominent. But then as we progress, and actually devotees, although most devotees kind of, I think, will find it hard at least to relate. It seems like a lot of devotees find it hard to relate to this mood. But most devotees do not recognize it in themselves when it's there. Because there's a lot of questions which are in the vein or on the subject of lacking in spiritual life, isn't it? Or something's missing, or how can I improve, or how can I be free? How can I improve? So you understand that the general language is one of wanting. It's one of aspiring. So it's quite subtle, but what devotees are expressing, they're expressing separation from Krishna. You know, oh, I'm so fallen, etc. You know, that's the disposition of a devotee, is that they are feeling a distance from Krishna. Oh, please pray for me. You know, I'm so distanced. You know, I'm struggling so much. Of course, devotees are speaking in their humility, but they're expressing Ripalamba Bhav. You know, and that hankering gets you could say, I wouldn't say it gets worse. It's not, it sounds like not a very nice connotation, but it actually gets more deeper, and it becomes more stronger as we're reading here, you know? Yeah, so that's why we should invest our feelings of lacking when we're chanting the holy name, you know, in invest that feeling of distance and put it into the emotion while we're chanting, you know, praying for that distance to become less, you know. So yeah. cultivation. That's why Maharaj speaks he speaks on this subject. It's something that we have to cultivate, and especially it helps us to cultivate it by hearing about it. And there's the next chapter will give some examples as well, of things we can read to help invoke these feelings of separation.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
We're talking a lot about emotions, right?
Yeah.
Moment, like chanting with emotion, doing things with emotions.
Yeah,
so
that's the part. That's the part of the book we're reading at the moment.
Yes.
So
at the moment we have to kind of practice, right? And then eventually it'll come automatically, emotions, right?
Something like that. We have to be aware.
Yeah.
Be aware of it, and that it is it is an emotion that's favorable for us to cultivate. It's required, and it's required, and it's favorable for developing bhava. But go on.
So I'm going to say it's like, so say when you are performing devotional service, you're chanting or whatever, and these kind of thoughts come in that you don't feel they're favorable. Maybe they were favorable before, but now you don't want that kind of thoughts or nothing like that. So then how is it Vipralamba? How is it separation mood?
Say again, how?
How is it as a separation from Krishna?
A losu days through other thoughts that may come in. You're speaking about
Yeah. Different. So I can't even like give an example. I'm just saying because you feel like you want to progress and you're just not making progress, and you're trying to do whatever it needs to be done with spiritual life. You're trying to make an effort, but you're not going, you feel you're not going anywhere. So how is that mood of separation?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I was just trying to bring that out. That actually, that is separation. That feeling of inadequacy. That feeling, especially if you're strongly situated in the basic principles of Krishna consciousness, and you're chanting 16 rounds, etc. So you're correctly situated. So the feelings of lacking, the things of, like you said, it feels like we're not making any fast enough spiritual advancement. I'm just trying to as kind of highlight, that is the mood of separation. So we chant in that mood of wanting to advance or wanting to come closer to Krishna. It's not as if something's going wrong. That's the point. It's not. It may be generally. It's especially, as I said, if you're situated and you're chanting your rounds and you're sincerely endeavoring, this type of contemplation. I'm not making advancement fast enough. I really wish. That is good. It is not necessarily that you're doing something wrong.
I give you kind of an example. Like say somebody's said something or done something, right? And straight away your mind will be thinking, oh, this person done. So that done this or said this. But then you have to reflect to yourself. This is what I'm thinking. That even if somebody said something, did something, but we should come to that point, like I should come to that point that it doesn't affect me. It doesn't matter. You don't see it in that light. So I'm not making progress because the problem is with me. You see what I'm trying to say? That I have to make progress, that it doesn't matter. Don't keep pointing finger to other people. He said this, she said this, he this.
Yeah.
You get it? I'm trying to.
I think so. Because especially when we hear of the character of saints, when they are, or when they have done a bad turn, or when.
Can you put your
something.
video on, please?
Okay, sorry. Oh yeah, sorry. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we are going for quite high ideals. So, for example, we have stories of devotees who are abused in different ways or treated badly, but then they pray for the persons who are treating them badly, and they do not feel revengeful. I think so. So yes, a part of cultivation in it, and we may not be on that platform, but we should at least hear about it. We should at least hear about it, and then we can decide, and we should try and act accordingly to a higher principle, which we see in scripture. Although our mind and senses may be demanding retribution or demanding revenge, we should better be inspired by scripture and learn to tolerate, and not to feel bad for those who are the bringers of our karma. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but it's a case of practice. We have to practice, and we're not always going to be successful.
I think that when we were doing in the previous chapters, it was suggested that we chant na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim. Every time this thought of somebody hurt comes. And I was practicing that, and it works, because after that that hurt goes away, and that thought just dissolves away.
Yeah.
But then 10 minutes later, you come back again, and it's
yeah, but that's exactly it. Maharaj Kishore's put it in very nice, simple terms. Like, for instance, when you feel like you've been offended, then you one should be more tolerant than a tree, ready to offer all respects to others and expect no respect in so we're supposed to take shelter. Yeah, go on. Yeah, carry on.
I was just thinking, like, we're getting offended, but actually there are small petty things usually, and it's only the ego that gets offended usually, and there's so many worse things going on in the world. What even the karmis have to put up with a lot. Yeah. And if somebody doesn't like offer us the last pakora, we're thinking, oh, they've really snubbed me. I'm not going to get over it. You'll wait for the next time this pakora is, and you'll do something. It's like it's so it's so trivial usually, but there's a lot worse things that could be happening to devotees rather than these kind of like offenses, which are probably not actually offenses. We're just ego on the ego platform, and we're speculating. Usually it's not really an offense. An offense is a very serious thing, isn't it?
Yeah. That's another way that Marvel Lubanga, if I just paraphrase what she's saying, that's another way of looking at reversals or so-called injustices that are dealt to us. Relatively speaking, they're very minor. So it's good it helps us to be reminded of it in comparison to, say, the catastrophe that might be going on the world scale. So that's another way. So there's two there, is to take shelter of.
Yeah, but do you see what I'm trying to see? That why are these even the thoughts creeping in like that when we're trying hard to become Krishna conscious and following whatever we need to be doing?
Well,
so
that's
not making any progress. I feel that it's not making any progress.
Well, that's called that's called spiritual life. That is what it is about. It's not just like you get a ticket and everything's going to be, that's it. I've taken initiation, and everything's going to be just,
No.
No, it's going to take a lot. It takes a lot of introspection, coming to terms with our conditioned nature, coming to terms with our inclination towards self-enjoyment, coming to terms with our false ego, coming to terms with all these things. That's what spiritual life is about. It's about, because especially if we're chanting, we are digging all these things up, all our attachments. In one book, The Path of Perfection, Prabhupada says, by chanting Hare Krishna, everything becomes revealed, even the nature of our conditioning. So that's what spiritual life means. It means to take on our imperfections and to have faith, to take them on and to go through them, so to speak, to take them on and to, how can I say, to take on, it's not as if something's going wrong. What's going on should be going on, because it helps us to go deeper. It helps us to cultivate good qualities, godly qualities, And it's quite sobering. You've been practicing, we've been practicing 10, 20, 30 years, and we become angry if someone doesn't give us a piece of pizza. We've got some introspection to do. And that's something I see. One of my reading deviations is to read, I mentioned before, sometimes I read little books on Christian saints and the trials that they go through. It's very intense, very intense. These are internal trials that they go through. And they speak of it in very graphic ways, because they translate it as a fight with the devil. That's their translation of it, their fight with the devil. So we've got our own fights with the devil, but we don't exactly term it like that. We've got our own fights with our non-devotee side, in our conditioned nature. So we have to, so if we can act according to, and sometimes Krishna may give us inspiration of how to act in a certain way. I may hear it, but then we may find it hard to actually do it. But I just had an incident just recently where I felt some inspiration of how to respond to a certain situation, which was, I felt it was, I felt like it was inspiration from Krishna. But my false ego was fighting against it. But I knew, no, I have to do what I was inspired. I have to act according to the inspiration I felt, and not according to my conditioned nature. So I had to come up to the mark, so to speak. I don't know if we're answering your question, but it's an interesting discussion point. So generally speaking about Vipralambha, so you asked the question about feelings which may not be so favorable, they come. So we've had two ways to deal with that. One is to take shelter of, for instance, Shishastakam, Nadanam, Najanam, and Janada Peace, and then Mother Lavanga mentioned reflection, on the actual nature. They're quite insignificant, I
was connecting it to Vipralambha, separation mood.
Yeah, separation from Krishna, separation from being in a state that Krishna's going to be pleased with us, being conditioned, So all right.
Yep.
Should we read on a bit more, see what else comes out? Okay, I'll just read a little bit more I'll just read up to the 4 asterisks on the next page. Both Srila Prabhupada and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati emphasized that Lord Chaitanya never thought I am. We read that, didn't we? Did we read it? Yeah. An additional feature of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mode of worship should be well noted. While Radha and Krishna's pastimes of meeting and separation take place within the context of the mellow of conjugal love, Lord Chaitanya's savoring of the pastimes of meeting and separation however in a different context. They are based on the mellow of servitude. That's your ras. Okay, let's read about that. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Gaya to perform the rites for his deceased father, he met Ishvara Puri and took initiation from him. Receiving the 10-syllable mantra as his worshipable deity. The 10-syllable mantra is
Hare Krishna.
Namo Bhagavate
might be that,
Vasudevaya.
yeah, it might be that. Took initiation, receiving 10-syllable mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I think it's that, yeah. Let's see. After meditating on the mantra, the Lord became so. It might not be actually. Anyway, let's read. The Lord became emotional and began to weep, roll in the dust, and search for Krishna in separation. It must be another mantra. It might be the Kaumudi mantra. The Gopal mantra is 8 syllables, isn't it? Those who are taking part in our Gayatri course. Yeah. My dear Krishna, quote, he called out, my dear Krishna, O Father, O Hari, my life and soul, where did you go after stealing my heart? Unquote. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati points out that addressing Krishna as father and so thinking of himself as son reflects Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood of pure servitude, dasya. Moreover, in this verse and the ones that follow it in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Lord Chaitanya called out after Krishna, who had disappeared from the Lord's meditation and stolen his heart. In this first expression of ecstatic separation, the Lord lost complete control of himself, and only with great difficulty did his surprised students pacify him and straighten his disheveled appearance. In other words, Lord Chaitanya's first display of ecstasy was one of separation. In the ensuing years, both in Navadvip and Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued to exhibit feelings of separation from Krishna, the emotions increasing in intensity in his final pastimes. The Lord was subservient to his emotions. He was not in control of them. At night, the pains of separation were so intense that he could not sleep. He would feel so uncomfortable that he would rise from bed, and then he would lie down again, and unable to sleep, he would again rise and sit, staring off into the far distance from where he had hoped Krishna would momentarily return. I have a thought, but I'll just share that at the end of this section. In a way that in enacting transcendental pastimes is an eternal feature of Krishna, separation from those pastimes and their synosia is eternally present in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as much as the Lord was eager to taste ecstasy, he was equally eager to have others do so. As Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wrote, quote, let my consciousness, which is like a honeybee, take shelter to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has just now appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach the ancient system of devotional service to himself. This system had almost been lost due to the influence of time. Unquote. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared not only to relish love for Krishna, but to teach that eternal system of devotion, a sadhana which had almost been lost due to the influence of time. Moreover, the Lord was not discriminating in his distribution of love for Krishna. Whoever was willing to take it could have it. Although spontaneous loving devotion was a carefully guarded secret of the Vedas, a perfection very rarely obtained by the most attentive sadhaka, Lord Chaitanya, the proprietor of Raj Bhakti, was willing to give it to anyone. Overcome by the kindly emotions of Srimati Radharani, Lord Chaitanya was not only the personification of Ripalamba, but the personification of Audhaya, magnanimity. In Rupa Goswami's words, he is Mahavadanya, the most magnanimous incarnation. Okay.
I'm sorry, Prabhu, I think Nitai is waiting to be let in.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. I was just looking at the book, Hare Krishna. So, for us to go back to Godhead, actually, devotees go back to Godhead when they're feeling intense separation from a Godhead. They don't go back unless they're feeling intense separation from a being there. So we have, so that's why I think that's why this mood is very important in our, in our sampradaya, in as followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, that should be our only heartfelt request at the time we're leaving this world. We should be feeling intense separation from Krishna, because that's when Krishna will take us back to Godhead, if we really want to go. Yeah. So, like in the beginning, Maharaj mentions in Sudha Bhakti Chintamani, it kind of maybe a kind of philosophical ambition. Oh yeah, I want to go back to Godhead. Kind of, yeah, it would be great to go back to Godhead. Nice place. I said this before. Like nice weather, no stress. But then, actually, as one's develops spiritually, as we're hearing, it should become an internal. We should become psychotic about the spiritual world and about going back to Godhead. I don't know if psychotic's the right word, but being obsessed, we should be completely, there should be no other shadow of desire in our heart. We just want to go back to be with Krishna. And that may happen at the time we're leaving this world. Then we may go through some quite intense transformations as we're leaving this world and develop that type of longing, or it might come before. But whatever, it's to go back to Godhead, we've got to want to go back to Godhead. And to want to go back to Godhead means we've got to feel separation we've got to feel separation for Krishna, for the service of Krishna. So that's why this is being described, Rupalamba. Anything further on that? Otherwise, you can continue reading over Chandravali in 674. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments on this? A few more pages left in this chapter. The next chapter, it seems like the whole thing is about cultivating Virpalamba, but chapter 35 is entitled Cultivating Virpalamba. So it's going to elaborate more on that. There, I think, is Maharaj recommends different readings or different meditations to help the sadhaka. And he mentioned the other day, I was listening to a lecture that Maharaj gave, he said one of the most intense books about separation. Well, intense is the right word, but one of the most pronounced book, which is really a graphic description of separation. And it's and I read it as well. I've read it a couple of times. It's really an amazing book. Those who might want to heard of it, it's called Hamsadutta. You heard of this book, Hamsadutta? It's a plaintive cry. It's a message to Lalita, to a swan, a kingly swan, and she gives a message describing the pathetic condition of Radharani to the swan who's on his way to Dwarka. It's beautifully written. It's very poetic as well. So she relates the state of Radharani to this swan. And then the idea the swan goes and relays that plaintive cry to Krishna in Dwarka. And it's called the Hamsadutta. I think it's by Rupa Goswami. Those who might want to dig around for that treasure. It's only a small book as well. It's not a very big book. It's not like it's not like this book. It's a small, concise book. And Samaj will probably mention that in the next chapter. Hamsadutta. You've heard the name Hamsadutta, Babu, isn't it? Hamsadutta.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's a book by Rupa Goswami. And it's nice. I just remember part of it where Lilith is describing the way that he should fly to Dwarka. And she says, you shouldn't stop here, because please don't stop here. This is where the demons came on. I think you should stop here in this place. This is where Radharani and Krishna met, as you're flying over this place. I can't remember it exactly. I'm just like paraphrasing it. All right.
Oh, when? This is what I meant. My question was all about so much to do and not be able to do all these things.
What, read this book?
Yeah.
It's only a small book. If you're so inspired, I've got it behind me somewhere. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Okay, right. Srimati Radharani is always eager to increase service to Krishna. The more servants, the more and more varied the loving devotion to offer Krishna. This is always her desire. And when Krishna enters the mood of his beloved, he is overcome by the inclination to distribute devotion to himself freely and indiscriminately. The obvious question arises, by which sadhana would people attain this treasure? Of course, we all know that answer today. By chanting Krishna's name, specifically by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. When Krishna appeared over 5,000 years ago, he did so to savor the unique mellows of loving exchange facilitated by background setting of the material world. But he had another reason, to display spontaneous loving devotion and teach the path to it, Raganuga Sadhana. Krishna thought, by hearing about the pure love of the residents of Raj, devotees will worship me on the path of spontaneous love, abandoning all rituals of religiosity and fruitive activities. However, contrary to Krishna's plan, people did not fully understand his purpose, his pastime, or his teaching to Arjun and Uddhav. Although by hearing the Bhagavad Gita, some people were inspired to take up devotional service, they all followed a path of regulated sadhana and did not lead to Raj. Thus, Krishna contemplated coming again in introducing Nam Sankirtan as a religion for the age. He would also distribute the 4 mellows of service to Krishna. In this ways, he would make the world dance in ecstasy. But Krishna was experienced. He had already tried to teach Raj Bhakti in Dwapara Yuga, and it was unlikely that the less qualified people of Kali Yuga would understand his intention. He had to do something different. I will become a devotee. The Lord considered that by shedding his divinity for the role of a devotee, he would be more successful in teaching bhakti. Example was always better than precept, he thought. Unless one practices devotional service himself, he cannot teach it to others. And to teach spontaneous devotion to himself, he would have to come himself. His incarnation could re-establish religious principles, kill demons, and shelter devotees. But only he could teach and distribute Raj Bhakti. His incarnations could not. With that intention, Krishna appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and distributed access to loving devotion through the medium of Nam Sankirtan. While doing so, he simultaneously fulfilled his inner purposes by assuming the role of Radha and thereby tasting the three features of their loving exchanges. These three confidential reasons for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's descent were disclosed by Swarup Damodar and recorded by Kaviraj Goswami.
Yeah, this reminds us of our class on the Gauda Gayatri, isn't it? Remember, it was the outline of the tattva of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. Vishnupadaya Dhimahi. So let me just read the Sanskrit for this because it's nice. Then you can read the translation. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard this. Shri Radharaya Pranayamahima Kritisovhane Eva Aswatjodhena Bhuta Motorima Kritisova Madhya Shokam Tishatmat Anubhavata Kritisambhati Lopat Tat Bhavatya Samanjani Satikabo Sindhu Harindu.
Desiring to understand the glories of Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and the happiness she feels when she relishes the sweetness of his love, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appeared from the womb of Srimati Sati Devi as the moon appears from the ocean.
Yeah, it seems like Marge's gone. It's the reason how he's given a basic outline of the tattva of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because it's the because as I mentioned, he's the you mentioned in the beginning, he's the what is it? He's the form of separation. He is separation personified. So it's by his being conversant with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then we can learn the mood of which to worship Krishna. So he's just giving a basic outline of Gauranga Tattva because it's important for us, yeah, because he is the personification, and he's showing us. He came to show how to be devotee. So mainly he didn't just come to show how to pay obeisances and how to cook breakfast or how to make garlands. He came to show the mood, and what's the mood? It's separation. Yeah, he's come to show us that, and for that he's coming, and he's coming in the mood of the highest devotee, Radharani, who obviously is feeling great separation from Krishna. Yeah, so when it says he's come as a devotee to teach what it means to be a devotee, it's not mean he's coming to teach us how to play cartels, how to play Madanga. He's teaching us, he's come to teach us the mood of by which we can obtain Krishna. And that's Vripalabha, separation. Yeah. I guess he's coming also to teach Kirtan as well. We have to say that. He organized Kirtan. I mean, that's there as well. And Vaishnava etiquette, that's there as well. We have to say that, isn't it? Vaishnava etiquette, it's all in Chaitanya Charitamrita, dealings between seniors and juniors, etc. And he came to teach, he came to dispel the teachings of Mayavadi as well. That's what we're reading at the moment in our class on Saturday and Sunday. But a major thing he came to teach was this mood, Rupalamba, yeah. So by reading about him, reading about his pastimes, we can imbibe that same mood. It's called, as you mentioned, tat bhava, another word for it. Yeah. Right. Sorry, I just jumped in there, butted in.
In reading this verse, one would be prompted to ask, in addition to chanting Hare Krishna, was there anything else that would enable devotees to easily enter the realm of Braj Bhakti and Mahaprabhu to access the depth of Radha's heart? Our Acharya answers these questions in this way. Corresponding to a mantra in the mood and purpose with which it is chanted, by adapting and entering the mood of service in separation, Krishna would fulfill both purpose at once. Okay, mood of separation.
Right.
With a clearly laid out strategy, Krishna again appeared. This time he was endowed with Radha sentiments and complexion. He distributed the nectar of Nam Sankirtan in the Vrajvasi's mood of separation, and he simultaneously relishes the bhavas of his devotees, primarily the Madhurya Ras of Srimati Radharani. Radha's mood of separation has reached its ecstatic climax when Krishna left for Mathura. Radha literally went mad. Speaking to her intimate friend, Srimati Radharani would reveal her heart, which was like a stone-tossed ocean, sometimes displaying happiness, sometimes despair. To a greater or lesser degree, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always absorbed in similar moods. During the day, his mind was distracted by his associates, and so his consciousness veered towards the external world. But if there was a lapse in that company, then his mind would spontaneously merge into aesthetic emotion, which was either partially external or completely internal. Kaviraj Goswami says that Lord Chaitanya exhibited three states of consciousness: bhavmagna, adhar, bhaya, spruti,
Higher spruti. Yeah.
totally merged in aesthetic emotions, partially external consciousness, and fully external consciousness, respectively. At night, with Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Rai, Lord Chaitanya was free of all inhibitions,
Inhibitions.
and he let loose ecstasies which sometimes seemed like a wild, insane performances. And while such confidential exploration of Radha's innermost being was the sole prerogative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, hearing of it along with the Lord's teaching gives a template for the thoughtful practitioner's bhajan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not want his followers to imitate him, but he wanted them to understand his message and apply it in their spiritual lives. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur summarizes the purpose of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance as the enjoyer and teacher of Vipralamba Seva in this way.
Quote.
The transcendental symptoms that Sri Gaura Sundara exhibited after meditating on his mantra are indicative of his feeling of separation from Krishna. In spite of being with Krishna, he sometimes felt that he had not achieved him. So shedding tears became his principal activity. Feeling of separation alone are the means and nourishment for sambhoga or union. In order to remove the illusion born of the false conclusion of those who accept sambhoga rather than vipralamba as their sadhana, the Lord, who proudly considered himself a servant afflicted with separation from Krishna, preached that the mood of separation is the only means of achieving the goal of life. Actually, the Lord descended from the spiritual world, Goloka, simply to preach the glories of the shining, exalted mood of separation from the Krishna.
Krishna, unquote. Hare Krishna. So that's from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So we all know what sambhoga means, isn't it? That means union. That means meeting.
Yeah.
And famously, Gaur Govinda Maharaj wrote this book, The Banks of Separation. He described it like the river of bhakti flows between two banks. One is sambhoga and one is separation. Yeah. the river of bhakti flows between the both. You know, it's a very intrinsic. Yeah, it's a very important aspect of our Siddhanta and our philosophy in helping us to advance. You know. And now Maharaj is going to speak about the Shikshashtakam, which has very important in this regard. So let's read. 10 minutes. I can have a read.
Yeah.
Any questions out there or something to add? Please feel free to. Hare Krishna. Okay. Please.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
I was thinking, I joined a bit late because my internet not good, and I was thinking, Prabhu,
Yeah.
I don't know whether you read about this one earlier because I joined late, and love of Godhead is also very important because none of the other avatars has or none of the incarnations talk about love of Godhead, and because chanting Hare Krishna is invoking the love. And so did Maharaj mention about that also, Prabhu? Because
Yes,
I was
yes, we just read about that. The basic,
Okay.
the magnum, as you know, very significant of the the incarnation of Krishna appearing as Lord Caitanya. Namo Mahavandhanaya, Krishna Prema Padhayate.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Thank
Caitanya
you.
Mahaprabhu, no problem. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sole written instruction to the world is contained in his Shikashtaka. These 8 verses are named teachings, but they're actually teachings on Nam Bhajan. The introductory verse describes the 7 perfections of Nam Sankirtan, and the next verse, I think you did this with Nam Sankirtan some time ago. Yeah. And the next verse, the unfortunate condition of the people of this age who have no taste for chanting. The 3rd verse sets out the primary qualifications for steady sadhana, chanadapi, which is humility. Now, next one, nadanam najanam. The 4th verse expresses a natural detachment of one who has taste for chanting, ruchi. The 5th verse, the 5th of a devotee attracted to Krishna, praying for admittance into ecstatic devotion. The 6th verse describes the external symptoms of the fortunate Vaishnava who has attained bhava and is hankering after prema. While the 7th and 8th verses praise the perfected soul who tastes prema in separation and meeting respectively. The reader will find Appendix 6, the 8 verses of Shikshastaka useful to refer to while reading this chapter. Okay, I think we're all familiar with the verses, but let's see. Let's just have it. And I recite these every morning before my japa. Okay. Bhaktivinoda Thakur instructs us that the devotees Nam Bhajan should follow the guidance of the verses of Shikshastaka. By such smaran, a devotee will eventually awaken all transcendental truths, free himself of all impiety, and perceive the 8-fold pastimes enacted within his purified heart. Srila Prabhupada would regularly cite the 7th verse of the Shikshastaka as the example of what chanting in separation was all about. Another verse that Srila Prabhupada, let's go to the 7th verse. I'm familiar with the 7th verse, just remind us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nayanam astu sudhaya yugayatam ninashena chakshusram pundayatam sunyayatam jikatsavam govinda henime or govinda, feeling your separation. It's coming up next. Another verse that Srila Prabhupada was fond of quoting as an example of Vipalamba Bhajan was the 8th verse of Srinivasacharya's Sat Goswami Astaka. We shall briefly review both verses, beginning with the one spoken by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yugayatam nanashena chakshusha kashvarayatam shrunyayatam tikatsavam Govinda virahenime. O Govinda, because of your separation, viraheni, from you, I consider the moment to be like a great millennium. Tears, chakshusha, are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. Anam jagat sarvam. I see the whole world as void. Yeah, the whole world as sunya. You know, the whole world, the word for sunya is void. Jagat sarvam, the whole world is sunya, devoid. I see the whole world, the entire world as void without Krishna, On a morning walk in Bombay, Srila Prabhupada quoted this verse, and the mood of chanting it inspires the summit of Krishna bhajan. Quote, this is the summit of bhajan. When one will be crying, there will be torrents of tears, and one will see everything as vacant, sunyayatam tagat sarvam, for being separated from Govinda. Govinda virahini me. That is the topmost summit of Krishna bhajan. Okay. Unquote. Srila Prabhupada, like his spiritual master, was emphatic that Caitanya Mahaprabhu's path to perfection for the common person was learning to feel separation from Krishna. All right, I repeat that again. Srila Prabhupada, like his spiritual master, was emphatic that Caitanya Mahaprabhu's path to perfection for the common man was learning to feel separation from Krishna. That was what the Lord had descended to teach, and that lesson is clearly expressed in the words Yugayatam Nanashena and Sunyayatam Jagatsavam. This is the standard of feeling separation. Every second, every blink of the eye that separates one from Krishna appears like an age, and a universe teeming with life, crowded with stars and planets, yet without him, is like the Buddhist void. Sunyayatam Jagatsavam. The gopis actually felt like that, and so they criticized Brahma for creating eyelids that blinked and obstruct them from seeing Krishna. The gopis said, I'll just read the translation. Oh Krishna, quote, when you go to the forest during the day, we do not see your sweet face, which is surrounded by beautiful curling hair. Half a second becomes as long as his entire age for us, and we consider the Creator who has put eyelids on the eyes for us, on the eyelids for use of seeing you, to be simply a fool. Unquote. But let's check. Let's finish this page. 1 minute left. The sadhana in which a devotee attempts to see Krishna and the one in which he cries after Krishna are both valid. However, the path of Sambhoga is for a very rare and qualified sadhaka, whereas the path of Vipalamba is for the common person. Thus, it is both faster and more assured. One may compare the two to the process of self-realization through either meditation or through Sankirtan. Both are possible, but who has the purity of mind or the lifespan to meditate for thousands of years? Better we adhere to the path of Nam Sankirtan as recommended by scripture and by Gauranga. Similarly, better to follow the process of Vipalamba Seva as endorsed by Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his acharyas. And yet we see even today that immature and unqualified pseudo-devotees futilely follow the sadhana of Sambhoga because they are like a baby monkey hanging on to its mother's neck. Such foolish devotees fall from the path due to its difficulty. They do not advance in bhakti, nor do they enjoy Gaura's shelter, and so become victimized by sex-like intoxication and other wanton ways. And yet some foolish neophytes still continue to follow this dead-end road to spiritual destruction. All right. So they imagine themselves to be united with Krishna. That's their invoked meditation, that they have achieved Krishna. Our mood is no. We want to achieve Krishna. We are aspiring to. As Maharaj will then speak on the verse from the Satgoswami Astakam. Yeah. Hey Radhe Vajadeva Ki Chalalite Hinanda Sonu Yato. We know that verse, isn't it? Oh, Queen of Vrindavan, oh Radharani, where are you? Oh, son of Nanda Maharaj, where are you all? Are you just on the hill of Govardhan, or are you under the trees on the bank of the Yamuna? Where are you? These were their moods in executing Krishna consciousness. Yeah. All right, so let's stop there. So just remember the point we made in the beginning is that often our aspirations and our feelings of lacking is actually feelings of separation. You know? So we just cultivate, this is good to feel, it's good to feel a lacking. That, okay, because someone is feeling a lacking, that's indicative that you're wanting, which is indicative that you're feeling separation. You know, if you don't feel a lacking, then there's a problem. If you're not feeling, if you're feeling, oh, you know, it's okay, everything's all right. No, we should be feeling this distance. It's good, and that will eventually attract Krishna. Yeah, as that mood deepens, then Krishna will feel impelled to reveal himself to us because we're desiring it so much. A whole life we're desiring it so much just to be with Krishna. Then Krishna will come. Only then will he come. Is that? I think it was Gaur Govinda Maharaj said we've opened up a crying school. It's a crying school. All right, let's stop there, shall we?
Okay.
So
Can I quickly
yeah,
tell
please.
you it's our normal group? So Thursday I'm going till end of November, but I've asked Chari to send the links out.
Okay.
Please continue joining.
Okay.
If you don't get the link for some reason or other, it's the same link. Right. I just send with a new date every week just to
No,
remind.
Cherry's not here. I don't think she's not here. So could you send her a text just to remind her or someone?
I've already talked to her.
Okay.
So she will send it, but just in case she forgets, everybody knows it's the same link. Just join with the same link.
Yeah, and if you want, when you'll have other things to do, but it's just 6 hours different in Vrindavan. You could tune in from Vrindavan. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
We'll see. I really want to get on with my spiritual life. I really need to.
All right, do your bhajan. So,
on my
so
budget.
like, you've been hearing about bhajan, so you can, go to Vrindavan. You can develop.
But Radharani decides, but I really need to concentrate on myself.
Yeah. Okay. So
Anyway, so please all join. Keep going.
yeah. Well, I'll be going away myself as well. I'll be going away in mid-November. So that's Anyway, just confirming all of that. So we'll let you know about that. But I might still be able to continue. We'll have to see.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay. Just keep up with the group and.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for
Okay.
joining us. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.
In separation with the next
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
Vata.